Jeff Spiegel says hi to start off.
Who?
Jeff Spiegel says hi.
Who's Jeff Spiegel?
It's 3340, ABC 3340.
Hey, Darberly, do we know Jeff Spiegel?
Yeah, absolutely.
We do?
Why isn't he here though?
I
guess he doesn't like you.
I don't.
What'd you do there?
I don't know. No,
He's doing his high school show all night.
No, tell him I said hello. He's a great guy. He's the best.
I'll just start with what I said to Roman. As an Alabama guy getting to come back here in this atmosphere, under these circumstances, it probably is a little more special than some of the other ones. Can you just talk to the joy that you get coming back here and getting to do the show?
It's a lot of fun, man. I mean, everybody takes great pride in where they went to school. I think it's a little bit different for me than it is for the guys who play, because the people at home, they don't really care where I went to school. So I don't need to, I don't need to represent or, whatever it is. I need to be fair. But I am certainly grateful for the relationships that I had when I was in school here and the relationships that I've had since then, and the opportunities that, being here and getting started here afforded me. And it is, bring back a lot of memories, although I must say that this city and this campus are basically unrecognizable outside of the quad from when I was in school here in the 80s.
Do you have any favorite memories coming back here?
None that I can share on television. No, I'm kidding. I was so boring here. Nobody remembers anything. But I made great friends here. Great football games. I guess for just a moment. Now remember, my job's to be fair now, but I can say that probably my favorite moment in growing up in college football and an Alabama fan happened when I was in school here. They never won a championship here or anything like that when I was in school, but they finally beat Notre Dame. When Cornelius Bennett sacked Steve Berline, that's like the greatest thing that ever happened, because they beat Notre Dame, so that's probably as good a football memory as I have. And there were some good ones. There was the Van Tiffen kick. There was Rory Turner waxing the dude on the goal line against Auburn. So there were a lot of great memories, but all coming second to Biscuit knocking down Steve Berline and knocking him into next week.
Rece, do you feel like Alabama is playing with a different edge this season?
I think they're trying to prove that they're still the bully and the toughest team on the block. The last couple of years, really, they haven't always been able to run the ball effectively when they've needed to, and their whole identity was built on that. I don't know if I can say this on broadcast TV, but the old, early Nick Saban, I think it was pre-LSU, make their ass quit. I don't know that they've had that, to be honest. Not that they haven't been good, they've been elite. Nobody's been better than them. There's never been a dynasty in the history of the sport like this one. Now, Georgia may be on top at the moment, and they are, but overall, long-term dynasty, the sport's never seen anything like this. So you're splitting hairs and picking nits, as it were, but the last couple of years, they probably haven't been as overpowering and making the other team afraid to play them, or dread playing them the way they maybe have in the past. You get the sense from talking to people around the program and the players that that's what they want to do. And it'll be a huge test to do it against a very, very talented Texas team, a team that Pete Thamel and I were talking this morning. A lot of NFL scouts say that there are more draftable players on Texas roster than on Alabama's at the moment. Now, a lot of that's because a lot of Alabama's guys are young, freshmen, but still, that's pretty daunting. So we'll find out where they stand in that regard on Saturday night. I'll be there again.
How do you think they match up against Texas?
I mean, it's hard to say based on one game, but Texas has a great defensive front. And, that'll be a test for this offensive line, which has sort of, as I talked about a moment ago, trying to impose a physical, nasty attitude that they want to run the ball. And Alabama's secondary, a little banged up, and with Quinn Ewers and his arm talent, hasn't had a lot of success throwing the deep ball. A lot of that's been because of drops, some because of inaccuracy, but they're going to take shots tomorrow night. So I think that's a big matchup as well, to see how Alabama matches up in that regard. And the other thing is, obviously, Jalen Milroe, as wildly talented as he is, he's got an opportunity based on his pure talent level to be as good as anybody who's played the position here, especially as a dual threat type of guy. He's got to take care of the ball. And he did a great job of that in the opener and showed a lot of growth from that. So I think those are some of the things to look for Saturday night.
Coach Saban this week talked about knowing Sarkisian and Sarkisian knowing him. How much of an advantage or disadvantage do you guys feel as analysts when Coach plays former assistants?
Sark had a great line the other night about what's the record of the guys who didn't coach for him. Nick's had a lot of success against everybody he's coached against, and I think it goes both ways. There might be a moment when you feel like that I know what he's going to call here, but then sometimes you can outthink yourself because the other guy's going, he knows that I wanted to call this. And sometimes I think that gets a little bit overblown because there aren't a lot of secrets anymore. Every single play can be dissected from numerous angles. These coaches and army of analysts that they have at their disposal on both sides and really across college football kind of keep you from having many secrets. So I think in terms of the intangibles, it could play a factor, maybe playing a hunch in a moment or knowing what a guy likes to do, and I'm going to try to get him off balance by taking a shot here. They think I'm going to throw here, I'm going to run it, that kind of stuff. But I don't think there's a psychological hurdle. Sark's been a head coach for a long time, knows what he's doing, and so I don't think there's going to be any intimidation factor. But I do believe, not necessarily exhaustive research, but I believe Sark will be the first guy ever to have led Alabama to a victory over Auburn and then come back into the stadium and try to beat Alabama. Now, I know it went on Nick's record, but Sark was head coach, that day, acting head coach. So that's a little bit of trivia for the people. So I guess.
This is a nighttime atmosphere, so the home field factor, does that give Alabama any advantage for this game, you think?
I'm going to sound like Nick a little bit here, if they can handle their anxiety. Sometimes when you have that type of atmosphere and you're so fired up for the game, and most everybody in the stadium is on your side, sometimes you can press a little bit, try a little too hard. If they can manage that, it'll be good. If they can come up with a big play here or there, then we'll find out how Texas handles that. I don't think there's an inherent advantage to it. Probably better to have them on your side than have them against you. But a lot of it will depend on how you play in the early going, because if you can, I think back to the 2019 LSU game when we were here, and LSU made some plays in the first half and sort of seized control of the game. And at that moment, they sort of took advantage. I think not only LSU is a great team, but they also took advantage, I think, of Alabama, maybe trying a little too hard. And then when one thing went wrong, they pressed a little bit. So handling those types of emotions and just playing your capabilities for both teams is key. But it's better to have them for you than against you, I think.
How much sleep do you get on a Friday night before the show?
Depends on how good a job I did on Thursday and Friday in terms of writing preparation. But generally speaking, even if I'm completely written, which 98% of the weeks I am, I have this fear of going to sleep too early and leaving something unturned. So I'll kind of go back through everything, go back through my notes. The producer Jim Galliero and I have a ritual that he likes to go to bed early because he's soft. I'm kidding. He's
You're down the street.
He's all no. Never ever that. Never ever that. But he will call. We'll talk 9:30, 10 o'clock night before. Go through everything one more time. Have we missed anything? What have we got? Probably end up average 5 to 6 hours, something like that.
Well,
Clemson and Alabama were trading blows for years, and then Clemson's kind of not had as much success the last couple of years. You talked about this being a dynasty unlike any other. Where do you think this Alabama program is at, or maybe perceived, having not won a championship the last 2 years?
I mean, think about your question, Jay Goodwin, but think about it for a second. Haven't won a championship in 2 whole years.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, Texas hasn't won a conference championship since 2009. It's before Georgia's recent run, they hadn't won a national championship in 40 years, or a little more than that. So Alabama's still at the top of the heap. Now, are they head and shoulders above the way they were along with Clemson? Probably not, but they're still right there, and they've got a deep, talented team, a lot of weapons, a lot of exciting young players who I've said earlier, and people took it as a slight, and I don't mean it that way. Alabama might be a year away from being at their best because of some of the freshmen and sophomores that they have that will just get better with another year of experience. Still really good, still can win it now, but might be a year away.
Obviously, you can keep your objectivity, but do you get an extra sense of excitement when you do game day from Tuscaloosa?
I mean, I love being back at a place that's familiar. That's meant a lot to me for sure. And I know this is going to sound like a coach speak or announcer speak answer. It's not. I don't think it helps people at home for me to be extra excited or anything because of where I am. Our job is to bring them college football, the ultimate college football pregame show on a Saturday. It doesn't matter where I went to school. I don't need to let that shine through. It's a quick anecdote if that's possible for me, which you are all doubting at this point. But after Deshaun Watson hit Hunter Renfrow for the game-winning touchdown, national championship-winning touchdown against Alabama, I had a lot of my friends say to me, "Man, that must have been terrible presenting Dabo with the trophy." And I said, "No, it really wasn't at all." A couple of reasons for it. One, you step back and you want to give both sides their due, both fan bases their due, both players and coaches their due. But then the other side of it, because of what we do, we get to know these people as human beings. And I've been in the bowels of the stadium the previous season and had seen the devastation from Dabo's family when they came up just a little short. So the one thing that happens to you as an alum when you do this job with College Game Day, at least when you're in the host side, because I always say the players should care. If Kirk doesn't care about Ohio State, Desmond doesn't care about Michigan, Pat doesn't care about West Virginia, I don't really know why they're doing this. They all do, and they should. But for me, I need to take a step back from it, and that means when Tua hits Devontae Smith on 2nd and 26, the exhilaration is not what it was, and when Deshaun Watson throws a touchdown pass to beat them, the devastation is not what it was. You kind of go in the middle as opposed to what I was, like what would have happened to me as a 9-year-old, which, that was why I liked the Notre Dame game, because I was really ticked off about the 73 Sugar Bowl. Cried in the bathtub because my dad didn't allow crying over football. So I told him midnight on New Year's Eve I need to take a bath. So 8-year-old Rece Davis was in the bathtub. I don't cry in the bathtub over football games anymore.
We're gonna do one more for Rece, guys.
Rece, is there something about game day that never gets old for you? All the locations you go to, seeing the setup. What's probably the favorite thing about it for you?
That everything first, it's the best job in television, and I'm blessed to have it and thrilled every time I get to do it. But the adrenaline that you feel right before we come on the air, and right before we do the scene set, is awesome. And at any moment that I don't feel that adrenaline surge, it's not nerves, and I don't feel that adrenaline surge, then I'm not doing the job the way it ought to be done. So far, batting 1,000.
Thanks, Rece.
Thanks,
Good luck
guys.
tomorrow.
All right. See you guys. Have fun.